Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. Dare I tempt fate by making this video, by doing a preview for Oleksandr Usyk versus Tyson Fury for the Undisputed Heavyweight Championship of the World. I say tempt fate because, of course, I'm long past the point where, wake me up when the opening bell goes. I'm not interested in the build-up, although I did do a video about John Fury's little headbutt on that little scrawny kid. Quite inexcusable, really, all joking aside. But the build-up and anything that comes out of Fury's mouth doesn't interest me. Fight. Get in that ring and fight. That's my attitude. But I'm going to tempt fate. I'm not a superstitious fellow at all, but I'm going to tempt fate by doing a preview. And I mean, fights don't come any bigger than this, do they? Let's be honest. I don't really need to go into either man's record, but I'll do a quick little sort of précis of both their recent form, because some of it is pertinent. If you look at Fury, he's been largely inactive. Last year he had one fight, which was against Francis Ngannou. We know how that went. It was an absolutely appalling performance by Fury. I do think he won that fight by at least 2 points. And Ngannou, no doubt about it, the best debut performance by any debutant. The best. But I don't think he won the fight. He obviously had Fury on the floor, but flash knockdown, really, no big deal. And I think Fury won that fight. Now, if you go back to the previous year, 2022, he fought Dillian Whyte, which was the uppercut knockout in 6 rounds. And then he stopped Derek Chisora in an absolutely pointless, facile third fight, completely unnecessary, and charged the earth for it. Was it 26, 27 quid on pay-per-view? I mean, a completely pointless, stupid, worthless fight. How did he look? As well as you might expect him to look against a completely shot Derek Chisora, an ancient Derek Chisora with, if he was a car, he'd have 300,000 miles on the clock. Against Whyte, all right. Whyte, his punch resistance was on the wane. 2 fights previously been knocked out by Alexander Povetkin, although he had repaid the compliment around quicker. But if you look at the weight of Fury, in fact, if you go back to find him in the 250s, you've got to go all the way back to the Otto Wallin fight, which was in September of 2019, when he weighed, I think it was about 255, something like that, mid 250s. Since then, we're talking 270s and 260s. In fact, for the third Wilder fight, he was in the 270s. So he almost 20 pounds more than when he fought Wallin. That was in 2020. And then that was the second fight in 2020, excuse me. And then in the third fight, he was in the 270s, mid 270s, late 270s for the rubber match with Wilder. Against Whyte and Chisora, he was in the 260s. Against Ngannou, he was back in the 270s, high 270s. All right. So his weight, and weight is a factor with Fury. We know he's gone up and down in weight very severely. It is a factor, and it has to be considered. But for this fight, he looks trim. And a few people I've spoke to who know more about this subject than I do, the subject that I'm going to talk about now, they say they're suspicious of how Fury's making the weight, of how his body's looking. They say to lose weight's one thing, to get yourself in that type of shape, the body tone and so on, and tone of the muscles, and they're suspicious. I'm not going to cast aspersions because I don't know enough about. They know more about it than I do. The bodybuilder types, and they may have in the past used supplements, shall we say, to get their physiques. That's one thing, though, that I feel obliged to mention it, because the one thing I don't want is for either man, whether it's Fury, who's failed a test in the past, or Usyk, to come back with a hot test. And I wouldn't entirely rule that out in the case of Fury, because he's got form for it. I hope I'm wrong. Of course, there are other factors to sort of mention. Physically, he looks in good shape. He does look in good shape from what I've seen. I think he'll probably come in the late 260s, mid to late 260s, if I'm being honest. Like maybe the early 270s. I don't think it'll be like 278 or something like that. I think he's got himself trimmed down one way or another, and he's looking in pretty good nick physically. I think the Ngannou fight caused obviously a big stir because it was such a shocker how well Ngannou did and how bad Fury looked. But I think a lot of people made the mistake of believing that this indicates that Fury is completely shot. I don't believe that to be the case. It could be the case, but I don't think it. I think reports of Fury's demise have been, as they say, greatly exaggerated. I think he's past his best. I don't think we're ever going to see the Fury of the Klitschko boxing masterclass that we saw way back all those years ago. I think Fury, his legs are probably 60% of what they were maybe. But I don't think I'm going to stop short of saying he's a shot fighter. I don't think there's any evidence for that. I just think he looked so bad against Ngannou because he wasn't at the races. He wasn't there mentally, wasn't interested. Physically, he hadn't really trained. He said he did a 12-week camp doing what? Sitting on the sofa, eating ice cream and watching Netflix. No, I don't believe that. I think he just took Ngannou lightly, and it was it wasn't indicative of what Fury can be when his mind's on the job. And I'm going to presume his mind is on the job for this fight. Now, there's another thing with Fury, and that is scar tissue, because the fight, as I'm sure you know, was postponed by a few months because of the cut that was sustained by Tyson Fury. It was a bad cut. We saw photos of it. I'm not going to go into whether it was self-inflicted. I don't believe it was self-inflicted. It could have been, but what do I know? I don't know that, and neither does anyone else. I don't trust Fury as far as I could sling him, and I'm not remotely interested in what comes out of his mouth. I want to see him fight. He's a terrific talent in terms of boxing, but I wouldn't trust this guy. So it's feasible he inflicted the cut himself to get more time to prepare. Perfectly feasible. However, this could come back to bite him in the arse because it was a type of slice that, and plus the fact, of course, he was badly cut against Otto Wallin. If there'd been more of a gap between this fight and the cut, I would say that Fury would have plastic surgery on it, not just stitches, but to actually toughen up the skin. That's something that, some fighters do. Going way back. I mean, Iran Barkley was a notorious bleeder. I mean, I'm going back 30 plus years now. But he had plastic surgery on his eyebrows. At one point, he was cutting so much they were putting this sort of it's almost like cement into his cuts to hold his skin together. And in the end, he had it all shaven off and plastic surgery done. But of course, there hasn't been enough time for Fury to do anything like that, which means that the eye is potentially vulnerable. It can open when hit. And if anyone can hit cleanly and accurately, it's Oleksandr Usyk. Okay, so it would not remotely surprise me if the cut opened again. Not remotely at all. Fury, as we know, like I say, his legs, not what they were, but he's probably got 4, 5, maybe even 6 rounds of good movement in his legs left. Say 4, 5 rounds. I'll go with 5 rounds. But I think after that, he might have to start slugging and fighting. And we know he can do that. I mean, you can say that you can make the point that he outweighed Deontay Wilder by about 50 pounds of natural weight, maybe even more, which although is a pertinent point. But there's no doubt that Deontay Wilder, I mean, in that third fight, for example, he was a savage. He was. You had to nail him to the canvas, glue him there to beat him, which is what Fury ended up doing. And he clipped Fury and put him on the floor twice in that fight. It was so Fury, even though he was against a much lighter man, he proved that he can tough it up. And in fact, if you go way back to the Steve Cunningham fight where he was floored, again another fight he was floored in. He fought. He was floored. He was getting outboxed. The smaller guy was awkward and very skillful and almost like a sort of a lesser version of Usyk, a smaller, lesser version of Usyk in some respects. The styles are different. I think Usyk's much more talented, obviously. Although Cunningham himself had some good skills. I think was he a former IBF cruiserweight champ? Yeah, I think so. But But, he gave Fury fits. And in the end, Fury had to fight. He had to use his weight, his size, grab hold of him, wear him out, and eventually he knocked him out. It was 7 rounds, was it? Yeah. Whatever, something like mid-rounds knockout. So we know Fury can box. So in the past, he's been able to box very well. We know he's got, very, very good skills, a very high ring IQ, and we know that he can fight when he has to. All right. So those are all good qualities to have. And he will need them against Usyk, who is a brilliant, what one might call a generational talent, to use that, what's becoming a cliched phrase. Now, let's talk about Fury's chin, because he has been on the floor. He was on the floor in total 4 times in the 3 fights with Deontay Wilder. Nevin Pikic put him down years ago. Cunningham put him down. Ngannou had him on the floor. But Frank Warren made a very relevant point when he said, Fury's got a good chin, because when he gets hit, he might go on the floor, but he gets up and he wins. And that's an absolutely pertinent point to make, a really important point. Because Fury, even though after some of those knockdowns he's looked a bit shaky, he shakes off the cobwebs relatively quickly. I mean, the following round, say, for example, the Deontay Wilder, the third fight, when he was on the floor twice, was it the third round? I can't remember. I can't remember exactly which round it was. But he got up, and the following round he was absolutely fine. It was, I think it was the third or fourth round in that third Wilder fight. And then, in the fifth round or fourth, fifth, whatever it was, he carried on and he pretty much dominated that fight, that third Wilder fight. Wilder was knackered, by the way, because he stupidly came in the 230s, all upper body weight. He was knackered after 3 rounds. But anyway, nevertheless, he still hit hard. He had Fury on the floor, and Fury got up and did well, and eventually knocked Wilder out. If you go back to 2022 and the Dillian White fight, okay, White's resistance was not anywhere near what it was, but when he was floored, he was out of it. I mean, even Joshua, if you look at Joshua, when he goes on the floor, he takes a few rounds to recover. Fury doesn't. Fury is very good at shaking off the fog, shaking the fog out of his head and getting on with it. And I think that's been one of his best attributes. And I think Frank Warren is right when he said it. That denotes a pretty good chin. Because heavyweights, you hit anyone on the jaw, they're going to feel it and they may hit the floor. But to get up and shake it off and come back it's an important attribute to have. Very, very, it's a good tool to have in your toolbox. With regards to Usyk, now we all know Fury is a very big man. He's 35 now. So he's in the mid-30s, but even though chronologically Usyk is older, Usyk is 37 now, so he's 2 years older. Usyk is pretty much the younger man, certainly in terms of boxing years, miles on the clock, very much so, because he lives the life. And even though Fury is a very big man, he's listed at 6'9", even if he's a little bit shorter, it doesn't really matter. Usyk is 6'3", but 6'3" and weigh in, it comes in early 220, 222, something like that. Early 220s, I think it's 221 on both occasions, or 222 for both fights against Joshua. The same weight. That's not a small man. And also the fact that his weight is so consistent shows his discipline. So he's got less miles on the clock, and he is so brilliant. I mean, you don't need me to go through his career, but if you look at the Daniel Dubois fight, Dubois outweighed him by about 12 pounds, nearly a stone. And Usyk, that was a potential banana skin, but Usyk didn't let it be a banana skin. I know there was that, was it low, was it not low, knockdown, all that drama. But nevertheless, I thought it was a very good performance, actually, quite an underrated performance by Usyk, because after that knockdown that wasn't, he actually came back and did very, very well against Dubois and dominated him. And Dubois lacked experience. I get all that, and his mind was not on the job after this knockdown that wasn't, and so on. But nevertheless, Usyk did very well in that fight. Prior to that, you had the 2 Joshua fights. He almost knocked Joshua out in the last round of the first fight. Had there been a 13th round, I don't think Joshua would have come out for it. Joshua did marginally better in the second fight, but again, Usyk clearly won. Prior to that, it was Derek Chisora who gave him probably his toughest heavyweight fight. I mean, Derek is a warrior, whatever you think. Now, I've said that Derek was way past it when he fought Fury the third time. He most certainly was. He was probably a bit past it anyway when he fought Usyk, but he gave Usyk problems. Derek is, a classic gatekeeper and has been for years. I mean, he's at the end now, but if you're not on your game, he'll give you problems. Definitely give you problems. And I like Derek a lot. I've got a great deal of respect for him. But when you think about all this, what this all adds up to is that Usyk has settled into the heavyweight division, and he's not a small man. I mean, okay, he's small by the land of the giants, but look at how he's cut. Look at how great he keeps, what great condition he keeps himself in. Has he been knocked down as a pro? I don't believe so. Don't think he has. Can't remember him being knocked down. And at 37, he's an extremely well-preserved 37. Extremely well-preserved 37. I mean, make no mistake about it. Now, let's talk about the skills of Usyk, because we mentioned that Fury has a high ring IQ and has in the past anyway shown an extremely impressive array of boxing skills for such a huge man. But Usyk himself is a brilliant boxer with a very, very high ring IQ. He dissects the opponents. It would be almost lazy to call him a heavyweight Lomachenko, but there are very, very close similarities because Papa Lomachenko trains Usyk as well. And they're both Ukrainian, and they're both from that school of training and so on. But Usyk, I think, a terrific talent in the sense that he can break you down. He can pace himself perfectly over 36 minutes. He knows when to turn the heat up. Defensively, very good. Uses the old semicircle thing quite well to force the opponent to reset and keeps them slightly off balance. And he can parry punches. He blocks punches well. Good feints, very, very good feints from Usyk. And Fury is good with the feints as well. But I think Usyk is far better preserved than Fury, and I think that will be a major factor. Now, Usyk, the knock against Usyk is he don't like it to the body. And I think there is that holds some water, that argument, because he was hurt to the body by Joshua at one point. He complains a fair bit. Oh, low blow, low blow. No, some of them are not low. I happen to think that the Daniel Dubois punch was low, but on other occasions, and I'm thinking of one of the Joshua fights, first one was it? I don't know which one it was. Joshua landed some legitimate body punches, and Usyk was complaining. I don't think he does like it to the body. And certainly, if you go way, way, way back to the amateurs, he seemed to be a bit vulnerable to the body. Now, it's how you handle it, of course. What about your mental strength? Can you work through it? Can you navigate your way through those choppy waters? In the case of Usyk, I see no reason to think he can't do that. He's done it in the past consistently. And let's not forget, he's won all his world titles on the road. It's absolutely extraordinary, his career. He's 21-0, 14 knockouts. And has he ever fought in Ukraine? I don't know. He might have done way, way back. But, Britain, he beat Joshua once in Britain. He beat Joshua. Then it was in Jeddah, the rematch. This fight coming up is in Riyadh. The last fight against Dubois was in Poland. I think, was it in Warsaw? I can't remember. But certainly, if you know about geography, you know that Poland is next to Ukraine, and of course we know what's going on in Ukraine. So it was sort of a semi-homecoming for Usyk. He's fought in Latvia and Riga. That's where he beat Marius Braidis. Braidis is from Latvia. He's fought in Moscow. The irony. He's fought. By the way, he's fought in Britain more than once. Of course, he's fought in America. He's fought in Germany. He beat Marco Huck in Germany. I mean, this guy, he's beat Michael Hunter in the US. He's been around the block again and again and again and again. And I think, thinking about it, I think his early fights, a lot of them were in Ukraine prior to him winning the titles. But the titles, don't quote me on that, I think he fought in Ukraine quite early on in his career, quite consistently, if memory serves. But when he got to championship level and started to fight for belts, that's when he went on the road, and he won them all on the road. I think that's right. I should have checked this before I did the video, but correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, Mentally, extremely strong, Oleksandr Usyk. But that's not to say, of course, he can't be beaten. Anyone can be beaten. Anyone can be beaten. It doesn't matter who you are. Do not think that anyone is indestructible or anywhere near it. They are not. But I do think that mental strength, of course, will come into it. I think both these guys, Fury and Usyk, are very, very strong mentally. And that is why I don't see this. I don't see either of them capitulating. I don't see either of them stopping the other man. But what I think we'll see is Oleksandr Usyk, perhaps after 4 rounds, it's either going to be even or Fury will be leading. I think Oleksandr Usyk will be looking at Fury, trying to gauge the range, trying to get his timing right so that he knows when to punch between Fury's punches or to lead. Sometimes he leads with the right. I think this. I don't see anybody stopping. I don't see either man stopping the other, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if Fury went on the floor at some point in this fight, because Usyk, as a southpaw, I should have mentioned before, he's a southpaw. He does like sometimes he leads with the right hook, and sometimes he brings that left hand over. I mean, but it's those feints, and he's so sharp when he gets his timing. I think it will take him a few rounds to get his timing and to find the range. I think Fury will be banging the jab in, trying to hang the right hand off the jab, trying to find his own range as the bigger man, his timing. And I think timing is a major factor of this. But another major factor, I think, is also the footwork. And I see at this point of their respective careers, I see Usyk having far better footwork than Fury. I think he'll be able to navigate his way through into range quicker than Fury. I think Fury after 4 rounds, okay, Fury may be leading, but I think once we get to the middle rounds and Fury's legs, which are not what they were, begin to tire, I think that's when Usyk might take over. Now, like I say, wouldn't surprise me at all if Usyk put Fury on the floor, but I think Fury will get up if he does go on the floor. Usyk, I think, will begin to take over around 6, 7, 8. And I think in the final third of the fight, that's when we'll see Usyk really turning the heat up and going through the gears. So, who do I think will win this fight? I think Fury will probably mid-rounds, maybe after 8 rounds, he'll decide, okay, I'm being outboxed here. And because he does have a very high ring IQ, and I've mentioned how good Usyk is at navigating his way through the 36 minutes. Fury's not bad either. I think Fury will try to impose himself on Usyk. He will try to get physical with him in the last third of the fight. He will try to rough him up, maybe even throw in a few of the dark arts. But I think Usyk will be ready for that. I think he'll expect that. And he will, hopefully the referee will do his job properly. I think in the last third of the fight, it might get a bit messy, but I see Usyk outboxing Fury, staying away from those great octopus arms for the most part. And I think that Oleksandr Usyk will win a decision, maybe a majority decision, but relatively close, 7-5, no more than, 115, 113 is 7-5. 8-4 at the most, so 116, 112. And you might have one judge who's sort of in the middle. I think it'll be a majority. I'll go for a majority decision for Oleksandr Usyk. And a little caveat here. I am presuming that the judges do the right thing and pick the correct man to win. Please let there be no controversy, no scoring controversy. And please don't let anyone fail a PD test, for Christ's sake. All right? We want clean fight. We want the right man to win. If the guy who wins is Tyson Fury, absolutely fine by me. Tip my hat to him. If the guy who wins is Oleksandr Usyk, tip my hat to him. I just want things above board, done fairly, and I want us to have the first undisputed heavyweight champion in the 4-belt era this century. I want it to be legitimate, no controversy, and then they can have a rematch, all right? Because there is a rematch in the contract. And I think it will be close enough for them to warrant a rematch, all right? Probably closer than the first Joshua Usyk fight, certainly. So those are my thoughts. Leave yours below. Let me know what you think. I think Oleksandr Usyk will win a decision over Tyson Fury. You may agree or disagree. Leave your thoughts below and I'll give them all a read. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. If you're new and you could subscribe, that would be a big deal. You support the channel, build it up. And also hit the like button as well, because they count the likes, so I'm told. I don't know why, but they do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. It's been a long one, but this is a very important fight. And please, no one pull out. Hope I haven't tempted fate. All right, thanks a lot, guys and girls. Speak to you soon. Bye for now.